You crossed the line first, so you squeezed them, you hammered them to the point of desperation. And in their desperation, they turned to a man they didn't fully understand.
Often regarded as one of the best films ever, The Dark Knight pushed what cinema and, more importantly, what superhero films could be. If we're being honest, the whole trilogy really did just that, especially for such a darker tone of a superhero movie. Now, don't forget we are on Instagram and most recently started a TikTok. It is all new to us for the talk, but we are giving it a go. Also, be sure to like and share this video. This is Ash. Let's delay no more. We're gonna go ahead and fly right into the spoilers and all.
The night is darkest just before the dawn. And I promise you, the dawn is coming.
Immediately, this movie starts off with clowns dressed up to rob a bank. Shortly after, we see a man dressed up like Batman, but nowhere near a nicely protected suit. We, as a viewer, see an immediate escalation of the town's villains and the actions some civilians are trying to take to protect their city. They view Batman as a symbol, which is what Batman, or Bruce, was originally trying to do, to bring hope and safety to the city of Gotham. But is it safe to do so? No, not really. We see that Gordon was right toward the end of the last film. Gordon told Batman,
"What about escalation? We start carrying semi-automatics, they buy automatics. We start wearing Kevlar, they buy armor-piercing rounds."
We physically see the escalation that is now transpiring. And with this escalation comes Joker, who challenges not just Batman, but Gotham in general. That's his whole purpose in this story. Really, he has always been this way with Batman. They are literally opposites of what they stand for. This always explains why there is so much hatred between the two of them. This movie shows or expresses that the Joker is representing humanity's extreme inner views of opposition to changes and madness, really the bad traits within us, while Batman is a representation of sacrifice, stability, or structure, and hope for all of us to have inner good traits. These good traits are like the golden rule or principle of treating others as one wants to be treated. A brief example of seeing Joker testing humanity with their bad traits or morality is the options between choices of the innocents versus the murderers on the two separate ships. Batman dissolves the actions behind the scenes, but the fear of man of their morals is what's to be questioned in that moment or scene. Will their ship blow first? Should they take action and eliminate the other ship now? I did find it interesting that the murderers or criminals were the first viewpoint we saw take action of discarding the detonator, whereas the innocents bickered to the mere last second and decided to return the detonator to the box. While morality is being questioned on one hand by the Joker, on the other hand is Two-Face. Or should I say coin? Two-Face is questioning fate when he uses the flipping coin. He views things as two different extremes as well. Mostly good or mostly bad, or choices can be black or white. No gray areas. This too is representing the individual or society as a whole. Harvey Dent is a man of the law, but when Two-Face comes into play, he is a criminal bent on destroying Gotham. Because Harvey is a part of the law and Gordon tries to cover up what he has become, he is then continuing to build the lies that the government is protecting. It also shows the lies we ourselves live with, lies we build in ourselves, and lies we use when interacting with others. Again, the word deception is used on the villain's basis. But this time, not necessarily as a destructive force like Joker. Two-Face, or rather Harvey Dent, deception will be used as a tool to keep the civilians protected and the murderers off the streets. But how long would these deceptions be concealed? How long can we as a moral citizen keep up this lie? We find out in the third movie. So, is there a lesson to be learned? Yes. Be a symbol to be good and do good. When that is maintained, we can continue to build hope in ourselves, in the public, and then the world.
Endure, Master Wayne. Take it. They'll hate you for it, but that's the point of Batman. He can be the outcast. He can make the choice that no one else can make.
Alfred is fantastic in this movie. You see him stretching his boundaries of different ways to communicate with Bruce about his actions now affecting Gotham in both good and bad traits. We really see him questioning Bruce quite often, and even providing an example of his past experience in Burma. But, as always, he continues to be the wise guide for Bruce. He takes watching over Bruce very seriously, and we all know that he is more than just a butler. He gives the example of the bandit in his past to help guide Bruce in his actions and how he is strangling the villains, so they are reacting.
Some men aren't looking for anything logical, like money. They can't be bought, bullied, reasoned, or negotiated with.
Bruce later on expresses how he was meant to inspire good, not madness. Alfred tries to console Bruce by saying, "You spat in the face of Gotham's criminals. Things will always get worse before they get better. Rachel believed in what you stood for. Gotham needs you." Bruce expresses that Dent doesn't know she was going to wait for him and that he can never know. As mentioned earlier, Alfred is trying to find different avenues of communication to guide and help Bruce. One way he does this is by encouraging Rachel to have more empathy and understanding of Bruce's choices. Rachel is upset that Bruce stood by when Dent took custody as Batman. Alfred expresses,
Perhaps both Bruce and Mr. Dent believe that Batman stands for something more important, even if everyone hates him for it. That's the sacrifice he's making. He's not being a hero. He's being something more.
like a parent, he does questionable things, like burning the letter from Rachel. He burned the letter to do what he feels is right and would be protecting Bruce. People debate whether or not he did the right thing, and we see his actions have an effect in the next movie. Overall, Alfred just deeply cares for Bruce. No matter his choices or goals he has for Gotham, if not for himself. Alfred wants to continue to support him, but when does he stop doing so? We see him warning Bruce about his actions encouraging others to dangerously impersonate Batman.
Know your limits, Master Wayne.
We see him trying to get Bruce to realize that what he originally intended for the community of Gotham was great, but now he has pushed the desperate into the arms of someone much worse, the Joker. He sees the Joker is his match, and that it is possible that he can't fight him without losing himself. His last warning effort to encourage Bruce to stop his actions...
Death.
You have inspired good, but you spat in the faces of Gotham's criminals. Didn't you think there might be some casualties? Things were always going to get worse before they got better. Rachel believed in what you stood for. What we stand for. Gotham needs you.
Not to mention his last action of stopping the breaking heart of Bruce. We see him burning the letter. Sometimes the truth isn't good anymore. People need more to have their faith rewarded.
Today I found out what Batman can't do. He can't endure this. Today you get to say I told you so.
Bruce is just having a rough time in this film. Not only is he falling asleep during business meetings, but he is trying his best to keep Gotham and the ones he cares about safe. We see his fear as Batman has outraged Gotham, but most importantly, we see his fear of losing the one he loves most, Rachel. During his personal struggles, in some cases, he is failing. He really wants his love to reflourish with Rachel. Failed. Inspiring people in Gotham is clearly not going as planned. Failed. And encouraging Dent to be the good face of Gotham. Failed. Most importantly, we see the stakes of being Batman have gone higher than planned.
Don't let me find you out here again.
We're trying to help you!
I don't need help.
Fear in the city has lowered because of Batman, but that doesn't mean in the deepest of shadows there are others boiling at the wrongs now righted. In this film, we see Batman is really starting to take over Bruce's identity. For every avenging Batman takes, someone is looking for revenge for that action, and we see these shadows start coming off the streets with more firepower, more chutzpah, and most of all, his uncomplimentary opponent, the Joker. Even though Bruce is having a difficult time with the citizens, he is just overall trying his best to keep peace, like while fixing his injury in the Bat Lair. Overall, Bruce has one rule of not taking a life, which keeps him controlled, logical, and just plain sane. He will not compromise his decision. But we see him snapping little by little whenever he interacts with the Joker. But Joker tries to prove to Batman that everyone has a price and no one is pure. You see the internal conflicts that Batman faces within himself in that moment. He nearly snapped or broke in physically harming Joker, which we have never seen him lash out like this before. We know that Joker is emotionally getting under his skin and ours as a viewer. I mean, he mentions a relationship of Batman with Rachel. Now, that's just too far. But the Joker has not gone far enough just yet. The Joker can be a human's darkest desire, or that chaos that could linger under our skin, and that fear lingers in us as a viewer whenever we see the two of them interact. His opposite, the Joker, who questions and tests Batman's limits in more ways than one, which has Batman acting out in ways he never thought he should have had to go. Honestly, it nearly breaks him. We see him hesitant on the action of choice to kill Joker in his weakest moments. But Batman knows that he would escalate the city's bad actions by the death of Joker because he is viewed as an inspiration. The concept of inspiration, though, is instead used in Two-Face's death. Dent had good intentions, and that is the side of the face that was chosen to be remembered, which upholds for a while in the city's protection against the criminals.
If I didn't work with cops, you'd investigated while you were making your name at IA. I'd be working alone. I don't get political points for being an idealist. I have to do the best I can with what I have.
James Gordon believes, trusts, and abides by the law in the best ways that he can. He takes his job very seriously. We come to understand that he lives and breathes as a law enforcer.
I like reminding everybody that he's out there.
Why wouldn't he come?
Hopefully. Because he's busy.
Gordon gets questioned by Dent about his interactions with Batman on hitting mob's money and the light on the building. He is quick to defend, but is fully aware that his sources are limited. I will be clear that Gordon, although he interacts in this movie, he is just to help with the plot. He doesn't have a lot of growth or development. He is raised to commissioner after the arrest of Joker. We see him leaving the office to go home and briefly reconnect with his family after his fake death, then immediately get called back to work for Joker's interrogation. We already saw Barbara, his wife, blame Batman in the shadows for his fake death. That heavy toll hits everyone in the audience.
Are you happy? Are you? You brought this craziness on us! You did! You brought this on us!
But most of all, we see the pure care that Gordon is trying to do to protect his family from further harm, even if lying wasn't the best of options, and we see that play out in the third movie. What Gordon takes just as seriously as his family is the citizens of Gotham. He tries his very best to be in front of Joker in the final act of getting the Dent prisoners off of the island by ferry as soon as possible to be away from Joker's antics. Unfortunately, it still escalates to their involvement. Although he is proud to be commissioner, he is still fearful that he doesn't know who to trust and isn't at some point being bought out by the mob. He is trusting in a vigilante that, yes, does not take lives, but does not necessarily follow rules either to keep the mayhem in line. But Gordon in this movie is just trying his very best.
When the chips are down, these civilized people, they'll eat each other. See, I'm not a monster. I'm just ahead of the curve.
As we have been mentioning in our video, Joker is the opposite of Batman. In fact, the one sentence in this movie encompasses his whole way of affecting Batman.
I believe whatever doesn't kill you simply makes you stranger.
Batman does not believe in killing, only harming. He also knows that if Joker were to die, he would start a fire that he couldn't extinguish, which just fuels Joker to consistently trigger and increase his actions against Batman. Joker's first step of action is by making his point with the mob after they basically asked for his assistance. He joins their business meeting to discuss the relocation of the money. We immediately see him feeding off of the chaos when making a demonstration of a pencil disappear.
I'm gonna make this pencil disappear.
But shortly after, he proves why the mobs have such a fear of the dark.
What happened? Your balls drop off? Listen, I know why you choose to have your little group therapy sessions in broad daylight. The Batman. See, Batman has shown Gotham your true colors, unfortunately. Dent, he's just the beginning.
Next, Joker starts placing fear into the citizens by arranging little games or social experiments. We see that he rises just enough fear to get people to do his bidding in what they feel is justified. for example. He finds ways into the party of Dent's. He kills Gordon during a parade. He gets police officers involved in the stealing of Harvey and Rachel. He has the citizens of Gotham take actions in themselves to kill Reese in order to stop the bombing of the hospital. And lastly, when pure chaos is starting to reach its peak, he has criminals and kind-hearted citizens decides who pulls the trigger of the opposite ship to prove his point. All the while, he is sporadically, yet strategically, pitting the citizens against each other. He is also pitting the three most important players of peace against each other as well: Batman, Gordon, and Dent. In the end, the Joker destroys Dent's humanity by the killing of Rachel due to limited timing.
Do I really look like a guy with a plan? You know what I am? I'm a dog chasing cars. I wouldn't know what to do with one if I caught it.
But was it really? It is quite possible that Joker lied about their locations. I mean, Batman made it clear he was going after Rachel.
Which one you going after? Rachel!
Yet, he arrived in time to save Dent instead.
No! No!
Overall, Joker is the essence of fear and chaos because they go hand in hand. Because he has no real rules or logic behind his schemes and just does. He gets others to also act out in fear. He consistently places fear in the citizens' faces with threats and wanting Batman to come to the surface. He wants to prove that people are not noble and reliable. Everyone is selfish and will have a price. In reality, Alfred said it right.
Some men just want to watch the world burn.
And that is exactly what the Joker wants.
The Batman is an outlaw. But that's not why we're demanding he turn himself in. We're doing it because we're scared. We've been happy to let the Batman clean up our streets for us until now.
Dent is meant to be Gotham's hero, the face behind the actions of stopping criminals, not by a mask. During an interrupted dinner date by Bruce, the topic of discussion was interesting. The woman expressed that she wouldn't raise a child in this city that idolizes a masked vigilante. But Dent understood the assignment. Batman was appointed because of scum taking over the city. You can die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain. It is a great example of doing what he can to save the city until someone can take the mantle in a legally speaking way to do what is right. Is Harvey Dent the right choice? Many think and believe yes. Even at this moment, Bruce thinks so, and throws a fundraiser in his honor.
He locked up half of the city's criminals, and he did it without wearing a mask. Gotham needs a hero with a face.
Dent consistently proves in the first half of the movie how he is Gotham's White Knight. He puts over 40 criminals in jail. He shows he is consistently willing to go against the mob and is willingly proving that point to Gordon during their interactions. Dent overall has a lot of guts to go against these big threats. He puts himself in danger, or should I say fate, when he falsely states he is Batman to lure out the Joker.
I wouldn't leave something like that up to chance.
I don't. I make my own luck.
Dent doesn't want to be labeled as a hero. Deep down, he knows what that label could represent. He doesn't trust Batman, but he knows that he will do the right thing, like saving his butt while in custody and things are exploding outside of his ride. Batman is labeled as a hero to the citizens, but look at what that role entails. Justice on his terms and not done fully within the law. Dent does know that a clean city won't happen overnight. And at the conference for Batman's true identity, he expressed,
One day, the Batman will have to answer for the laws he's broken. But to us, not to this madman.
But when Dent's love is killed, so are his views of humanity. His trust was broken in the two people he believed in to do the right thing, which lies on the shoulders of Batman and Gordon. Dent refuses to take medication or skin grafts because he wants to remember the pain and the new identity he is ready to take. He wants to take fate into his own hands. He wants pure revenge for all those at fault for saving him, at fault for Gordon not protecting Rachel, and out of pure anger to the mob for letting a mad dog off of his leash. Two-Face is an overall tragic villain of Bruce and Batman's life. He originally started out good. He was Harvey Dent, but we see his struggle of reconciling with his choices by use of the two-sided coin. He finds himself losing responsibility or justifying his actions by relying on the coin to make some of his choices or actions.
It's not about what I want. It's about what's fair! You thought we could be decent men in an indecent time!
Rather, he is allowing an alter ego to show up and take actions into its own hands without taking proper responsibility.
Harvey called. He said Batman's gonna turn himself in.
I have no choice.
You honestly think that's gonna keep the Joker from killing people?
Rachel has made it very clear that she has moved on and is in a relationship. For many reasons, this is understandable for Rachel's development and final conclusion in Bruce or Batman's life. Rachel is a childhood friend, and she made it clear at the end of Batman Begins that she could never be a part of Bruce's life because of the mask he wears as an identity at night. They both connect in wanting to make the city better, just one does it with the law and the other does it outside of the law. This is automatically a split in the relationship and why it would never work. Bruce admits he has decided to turn himself in an effort to not only stop the Joker, but for protecting himself as well from turning away from what he could turn into. Once before, they discussed if he left, they would be together. Rachel admits she meant it, but does not want to be the last hope of Bruce's humanity's choice. Later on, Rachel tries to talk Dent out of lying about being Batman. She does not think he should be taking a chance on his life for Batman to clean the city and stop Joker. She feels this is not an honorable action, but also realizing Harvey makes his own luck. Later in the letter that Alfred read and then burned, Rachel makes it clear she will be with Dent in marriage. She expressed she meant being with Bruce when Batman is no longer, but Bruce will never have enough with being Batman. She is sorry to let him down as a friend, and if you lose faith in me, please don't lose faith in people. In the end, Bruce cares a lot about Rachel, but he cannot outright love her. Both are capable of falling in love, but Bruce knows he shouldn't or can't. He continues to act as a rich playboy, but deep down, his heart shield will always be down for Rachel. He is the first to jump through windows to save her fall, but being in love is a danger for both his very guarded heart and for Rachel's safety. Bruce lost two people he loved at a very, very young age and contains a lot emotionally. Rachel is the only person who truly knows Bruce in deep levels, not only growing up together, but by knowing the true Bruce, and she too knows the dangers that lurk behind being Batman. Bruce could never risk losing Rachel, so he continues to leave her in the dark out of fear. But that's okay. Rachel has moved on, and she wrote a letter to Alfred clarifying that fact that we just discussed. Bruce deep down leaves love behind in general, and he made that clear in his moments of talking to Alfred.
Well, hello, beautiful. You must be Harvey's squeeze.
It was super cool to see the old TV show Joker mask make a debut in this movie, but I really enjoyed the somewhat comic backstory of Joker. Easily twice, the most mentionable moments of the movie, Joker discusses how he gets his scars. The first story is the father was a drunkard and his mother got marked with a smile. The second time is it the scars? I had a beautiful wife who would worry too much and carved her face. I just want to see her smile again, but she can't stand the sight of me. We know he has no past, and his name or identity is unknown. But these small moments really pulled from the numerous backstory ideas involving Joker's possible past. To me, it was quite unique to keep up with the Joker's comic lives being short and vague. It was great. Not to mention his cool Joker calling cards was an overall fun touch. But we also go into the psyche of why he chooses a knife.
Guns are too quick. You can't savor all the little emotions. In their last moments, people show you who they really are.
We also can't forget the nice mention of Bruce asking Fox to change his suit's neck movement, which was a callback to previous styles. Lastly is the music. Batman is an intense character, so it is only right to have his music be intense and menacing to the core. Whenever he is fighting in the darkness of the night, the intensity of the moment literally makes you hold your breath each time. In some moments, it even feels like a clock is ticking till the person is caught in a fight against Batman. But the most dramatic pieces is the complete silence scenes. For me, the two most mentionable moments are the first one right after all these crazy explosions. Gordon realizes Joker wanted to be locked up. We see Joker driving in silence, and we see these fires burning in the distance that the cops are trying to stop. This was all handled in silence before it hits the heart of the viewers that Rachel's death is final. The second moment is of the rhythmic humming of additional despair is when Dent wakes up and gets these flashbacks to Rachel's face and sees the coin on his side table and realizes that half the coin is no longer visible. It's burnt. earned. These deep moments of silence really echo the emotions that are meant to be felt in us as a viewer. Honestly, this movie overall has numerous layers and similarities that can be used as comparisons for Batman and Joker being at odds against each other. That's what makes them such a great good versus evil story, especially if you discuss just the psyche level of their so-called relationship. I don't have time to go into this, but maybe we could one day. Drop a comment on your thoughts below. As we exit a very intense movie of humanity versus the golden rule, in a way it is very poetic, but in a very dark tone environment. Batman is our Dark Knight of the night, and he continues to fight his fears, but continues to have hope in humans to do the right thing. That is why he will continue to wear the mask till we no longer need him. We thank you for continuing to watch our videos and subscribing. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up and click the bell for a third Batman video around Dark Knight Rises. Leave comments below of your thoughts of this most rave Batman movie as well. We thoroughly enjoyed responding back. Until our next video, stay nerdy and keep binging.